And I'm going to share my screen. Are you seeing my screen?
Yep, I do see it. I do see the slides. Yeah.
Slideshow mode. Yes. I'd like to welcome everyone to the IT Service Management Forum San Francisco Local Interest Group. Today we'll be covering ITSM process excellence and what are the emerging trends we're seeing for best practices and centers of excellence. Today's format is going to be very casual. It's just a few of us getting together to talk about what we're seeing going on in the Bay Area. And a special call to action from me. My name is Dawn Simmons-Kahn, and I am the president of the San Francisco Local Interest Group. And this is our first meeting post-pandemic, and we're very excited to get things going. And I'm going to make an ask out to all that are hearing this recording today or attending the call to go away today thinking about who can join us. I need a few more people to help us organize local events, career, service talks, and what's going on in the industry. We also need speakers. We will probably continue doing our meetings remotely for a period of time until things start to settle down. A little bit about IT Service Management Forum. Our mission is to engage all service management professionals. Our objective is to build and promote a unified community so we can share the valuable experiences of what we're seeing going on. This will help to inspire one another, grow our knowledge, and allow us to excel in our profession. And that is really why we meet. That's what ITSMF exists for. I would like to welcome everyone to attend. Today, we will cover the trend line on what we're seeing in industry and then give the most of our time to tech talk, questions and answers. I'd like to have our speaker introduce himself, what his organization's working on and what he's seeing. Then we'll wrap up. We probably will not go the full hour because we have a small, very focused group today. What are we seeing in trendline topics? Well, we certainly see digital transformation has taken its place at the head of the table. Digital transformation has forever changed the way we deliver service in post-COVID pandemic environment. Lots of use cases, lots of stories, and lots of change for how we are digitizing workflows and improving the customer and employee experience, because a happy employee experience is a good customer experience. We're looking at disruptive challenges that are leveraging business process continual improvement. They do this to maintain agile and process relevant so that they can deliver what the customers need at a price that they can afford it for, at a value that they keeps them relevant and delivers what our customers need. Best practices today matter more than ever. So a lot of companies are looking to establish formal or informal centers of excellence to help emerge and empower their business strategic partnerships. This helps them keep pace and really offers a consistent value recognition in the industry. So a lot of companies are looking to do that with their partners. And of course, IT Service Management Forum has been doing this worldwide for quite some time now. And it's really time for us to come back together post-pandemic and say, where can we go next? What can we do together? Digital transformation is really a fresh look at how we envision and leverage technology, people, and process. Today, it's all about recognizing new business and revenue streams that accelerates the customer experience, that enhances the products and services that our customers consume and need. Innovation really disrupts business as usual, and that it is that demand that is causing consumer advancements, filling marketplace voids. pause there. What are some examples of digital transformation, Peter, that you're seeing for the customers you're serving?
Well, I think you already mentioned one. Again, a lot of topics these days center around COVID-related interactions and specifically the back to office kind of interactions. I think a lot of people see that as an opportunity to digitize because there's not even an established paper process around it, so to speak.
Right.
And so if they start this anyway from scratch, they may as well do this right away in the proper way, right? Which is sometimes easier than to transition something that's well established, right? So that's certainly an area of interest. We continue to see a growing interest actually beyond the pure IT request topic that obviously has been covered for years.
Right.
The increasing interest is really in the enterprise service management world, so to speak, where you look at interactions beyond IT on the HR facility side.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, for more customers a new topic versus the IT related interactions, right?
Yes.
The IT related ones, the topic automation has been well established when it comes to service requests. It's really some of the other areas that are of interest, right? How can you automate customer support through chatbots? How can you even email, automated email responses, things like that, that
Right.
are drawing more interest. So it's less about the fact that there was no automation before. It's more about extending the scope of the automation, right?
Right. And some of that is resource based, and some of it is really looking at what's the best use of our limited resources to make the most of them.
Absolutely right. Whenever you embark on these automation initiatives, it's always a question, how do I start to go about it, right? What do I focus on first? Where do I get the resources from, etc.? And I think in general, what I see is most customers use an iterative approach, right? They start out automating some things that will save resources actually.
Yeah.
And then the savings you can use to invest into more automation, right? And so it's something that eventually builds up over time, right? It's very rare that you see somebody trying to automate everything in one big bang, right?
Yeah, that's why the notion, I think, of continuous improvement is so important. Is, you know, what's the one thing that will really move the dial on experience, and how can we do that? An example of that would be Ford Motors, who had actually undergone a digital customer first focus initiative during the pandemic because the way people bought cars changed. You know, they weren't going to dealerships anymore and taking a test drive. If they knew that they wanted a car, they'd research it. They would look a couple places online and then they'd make their decision online. So Ford used an approach much like that, where they optimized their digital purchase experience to really help to retain customers, because they were losing business to other companies that were faster to market with a immersive car purchase experience. They found that the average customer used 6 channels before they made a commitment to buy a high ticket item like a car. So they digitized their sales model, and they had to create speed and channels to break down those monolithic, big, gigantic, older processes so that they could do them faster. It took a couple of passes to get there. It was a definite challenge for Ford, but it showed up in, you know, savings and market share for sure. So while we're on the topic of business process, because really what we're doing, and Peter, I heard you talking about this as well. I should pause here and let you introduce yourself. I'm sorry, Peter. I would love to have you go ahead and tell us who you are, where you're from, what you do.
Not a problem. Absolutely. I'm Peter Adams. I'm Director of Product Management at BMC Software. I've been working in the ITSM area for more than 13 years. at BMC, based in the Bay Area, of course, here. And I've been leading a team of product managers throughout the world that really look at pushing the limits around, how to do and how to optimize IT service management for our customer base.
Right. It was really quite an event that we had. One of our last events, I think, was at BMC, and it was an incredible showcase of how you were bringing the digital workflow to life in your ITSM practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. We basically see a lot of customers being interested in some of the newer emerging topics, and absolutely try to share this with the general community and push the general ITSM practice along.
Correct.
While at the same time, being aware that most customers cannot make a switch from one day to another across the entire enterprise. So in my experience, for most customers, it's a kind of a stepwise transition. They start out experimenting and implementing some of these newer practices in select areas. Let's say, specific product teams, etc. They start experimenting with newer practices, while other areas around infrastructure may stay with the established ITSM processes for a while longer. So for us, it's again to think a lot about how do we help customers make that transition, right? Experiment with the new practices, see the benefits of it, and then gradually roll this out throughout the entire organization.
That's very consistent with what we're seeing in the practices. People are taking basically what is a good improvement that we can do in business process, and defining what that change looks like, and then creating a vision around that becomes part of the journey for how we go from good to better. How do we make change last and show progress that really moves the dial in customer experience or market or product and service.
Yeah, I think this whole area of experimentation, I think, has not received a lot of attention traditionally in the ITSM area. It was more like, we have this standard process and everybody needs to follow it. In my view, again, this leaves out a big opportunity to very selectively run some trials or experiments, see the actual value based on real data, and then see if it improves the situation or the outcomes, right? Then expand the usage across a larger scale in the organization.
Right. I think that's really key. And I'd love to get your feedback. I heard you basically speak through my next slide almost. Continuous improvement for process excellence is a cycle. So it starts with the idea, and let's explore what can we experiment that'll make a difference. And then we plan, how do we take that idea and put it into an action that delivers value? How do we know that it's delivered value? And how do we share the value? How do we inspire and repeat more similar activities? What's your take on the how to really embrace continuous improvement for process excellence, rather where I think in tradition we used to use maybe tools implementations to drive process? It really sounds like there has been a change in the way that we approach process excellence. What are your thoughts on that, Peter?
Yeah, it's a good question. Again, I think the concept of continuous improvement generally, I don't think was ever disputed. It's usually a matter of, do I find the capacity to really look at these things, right? It's almost like with a problem management process. In general, everybody understands that you want to understand the root cause or causes of some issue, get rid of it, and that reduces the load on the service desk, right? You just use it as an example, but it's a costly process, right? And in general, you only have a few shots at it as an organization per quarter, right? And I think it's similar around this topic here. Now, the good thing is it's very consistent in my experience with agile thinking, right? The idea to try something out, see the results, learn from it, expand it into a larger area, right? So in my view, it's very consistent with this agile thinking, and from that perspective, at least, this is not an area where there should be a lot of resistance, even if organizations move towards a DevOps and agile approach, right? For me, it's a very consistent approach here, right?
Well, yeah, it really is. I think if you were to take most of the approaches, I think the issue isn't which approach should reign supreme. It's how do we bring all these different approaches together to create the new solution? And they all kind of tend to map together if we let them. I know you only have a few more minutes with us. So I'd like to kind of get your feedback on some of the local questions that I've gotten from many of our members as we're trying to get the new chapter started up. A lot of our members have said, oh my gosh, we've been so busy and I've just basically had heads down. But here are some of the questions that they have asked, what's happening now in Silicon Valley outside of our group? Peter, how has service management practice changed post-COVID?
I think one trend I definitely see, there's a lot more virtual interactions. So the topics of chatbot, live chat support, collaboration generally has increased. They're not necessarily completely new, or they weren't new when the pandemic started. But in my experience, I see a much higher interest in these kind of interactions, where the traditional, walk-up support, of course, wasn't possible, but even on the phone support side, I think that generally the channel mix, so to speak, has shifted towards again a more collaboration approach, right, with chatbot and live chat. That's clearly been one key change that I saw, right? I think the other part is that, again, not necessarily a new topic during or because of COVID, it's just accelerated the velocity of innovation people wanted to bring out. The pressure to do new releases, make changes, etc., is ever increasing. And so this topic of how do I balance the demand for innovation with the governance that people want to have in a few areas at least, right? That's clearly continues to be an area of interest from our customer base, and they are trying to establish these more flexible practices where not everything has to go through a CAP meeting, but you're much more selective in saying, certain things I want to review, because in a big enterprise, you do have certain things that are regulated and or are a high business risk, right? But then other things should go through automatically as much as possible. Right?
Yes, right. It's based on risk and value. Have you seen, or have you at BMC done anything with centers of excellence for ITSM for accelerating or creating a more consistent process excellence practice?
I think many companies have something like that. They may not call it centers of excellence necessarily, but it's definitely something that I've seen, and I think that concept itself even continues to be discussed in the DevOps area, right? Where there's a lot of discussion about how you structure the teams. Is it really that each product teams are self-sufficient and autonomous, right? Or are they, or around SRE is another example, right? Or are there SRE experts that, or DevOps process experts that come in for a specific while and kind of work in an advisory fashion, so to speak. So there's a lot of discussions around that topic. Right?
Cool. Okay. Any other great innovations that you have seen or emerging from your stretch goals? What are your goals for next year?
We touched already on the automation part. Again, I think the area that is still holding a lot of opportunities really to, again, leverage AI technology to push the limits on automation into areas that, again, traditionally have only been coverable by human activity and human decision making, right? I think that's, for me, the biggest, most interesting area. We've had automation for years. We talked about automation of service request fulfillment, etc. But with some of the newer technology, can really push the limits.
What are some of the new technologies that you see actually exploiting AI successfully?
Well, classification algorithms, I think, are fairly well established. And they can help, again, in a number of use cases, not just the routing of tickets to the right group, but even, again, email response and things like that. Translation technology, I think, has made big progress. And as a non-native English speaker, I certainly have been aware of some of the weaknesses around auto translation, right? But I think it becomes more and more powerful, and I think it's to a point where it's really usable in many scenarios, right? Clustering technology, there's a lot of, again, emerging areas that are proven to be extremely useful for some of these more complex scenarios, right?
Fantastic. Now, I want to be conscious of your time. I believe you said you have 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, I think then I'm going to wrap us up. The one thing I'll ask, thank you very much, Peter, for your insights. Do you have any closing thoughts that you would recommend for best practices to really look at to help to enable the AI and digital transformation, the velocity futures that you had shared with today?
Yeah, again, recommendations definitely to start thinking about it and experimenting about it. That's, I think, the key part, right? You want to try this out and collect some first results in small select areas. And I think based on that, it's much easier to convince a wider rollout once you have real data at hand. So from that perspective, I can definitely recommend this experimentation approach, whether it's about some of the newer practices or whether it's the use of AI technology or other areas. I think that's the right incremental approach.
Awesome. All right. Well, Peter, thank you so much. We'd love to. I wish we could have our BMC meetings in person. I miss those so much.
Eventually.
Yeah. My ask of you and anyone listening to this is get in touch with me and please recommend a few people that would be interested in helping us organize programs to support the showcase of Silicon Valley and IT service management best practices worldwide. I want to thank you for dialing in and sharing your wisdom, Peter. It's awesome stuff. And let's see where we can go together in the future. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. And Peter, thanks for sharing your wisdom on that too.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.